Let's discuss spleen 3, supreme white, a Shu-Stream point. Spleen 3 is located on the medial aspect of the foot in the depression proximal to the head of the first metatarsal bone at the border of the red and white skin. How to find spleen 3? When palpating along the border of the red and white skin on the medial aspect of the foot from distal, the toes, to proximal, the ankle. The metatarsophalangeal joint forms a prominent landmark. Spleen 3 is located just proximal to this joint in a clearly palpable depression, which marks the junction of the head and the shaft of the first metatarsal bone. Located in a comparable position is bladder 65, proximal to the head of the fifth metatarsal bone on the lateral border of the foot. In comparable locations on the borders of the hand are Li3 on the radial aspect and Si3 on the ulnar aspect of the hand. Needling 0.5 to 1 soon vertically or obliquely from medial towards lateral. Caution, needling this point tends to be painful. Actions, indications of spleen 3. Tonifies spleen, harmonizes lower burner, eliminates dampness and damp heat, regulates qi locally. Special features: Yuan-Source point, Shu-Stream point, earth point, pen point, 5 faces. Important point for tonifying the spleen. Spleen 3 is a major point to tonify the spleen, as it is the source point of the channel and also the earth point of an earth channel. As the spleen belongs to earth, which is at the center of the 5 elements, the source point of the spleen is the center of the center. It is very frequently used to tonify the spleen in any of its deficiency patterns. Spleen 3 stimulates the mental faculties pertaining to the intellect, which are associated with the spleen, and it can be used in cases when spleen qi has been weakened by excessive mental work. The use of spleen 3 can then stimulate the brain, promote memory, and induce mental clarity. This point is useful to stimulate mental powers in patients suffering from post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome. Another important function is to resolve dampness, for which it is a major point. It is used in any dampness pattern in the upper, middle, or lower burner. When used to resolve dampness, it should be needled with reducing method. Examples of symptoms and signs of dampness are confused thinking, feeling of heaviness and mozziness or fuzziness of the head, feeling of fullness of the epigastric, no appetite, feeling of heaviness of the body, and sticky tongue coating. Spleen 3 is particularly useful to resolve dampness from the head, where it causes a feeling of heaviness and mozziness of the head and a dull frontal headache. Spleen 3 is also frequently used in chronic retention of phlegm in the lungs. Phlegm is retained in the lungs, but it originates from the spleen due to impairment of its function of transportation and transformation. Reinforcing spleen 3 can at the same time tonify the spleen to strengthen the lungs. This is strengthening the earth to nourish metal and resolve phlegm. A more unusual use of this point is to strengthen the spine. According to Chapter 4 of the Simple Questions, the spleen controls the spine. Spleen 3 is a very useful point to strengthen and straighten the spine in cases of chronic backache. To summarize, spleen 3 is a major point to tonify spleen, stimulates intellect and mental faculties, regulates intestines, abdominal distension and pain, diarrhea, resolves dampness, particularly from the head, resolves phlegm and strengthens lungs, strengthens the spinal muscles. Spleen 3 is the Shu-Stream Yuan-Source and earth point of the spleen-earth channel and has a powerful action on strengthening and regulating qi of spleen and stomach. The spiritual pivot in Chapter 6 recommends the use of Shu-Stream points in treatment of Zang disorders, whilst in chapter 1, it says, when 5 Zang are diseased, select from the 12 Yuan-Source points. The classic of the Jade Dragon clearly states that spleen 3 is indicated for deficiency and feebleness of the spleen and stomach. Since deficiency of the Zang-Fu easily leads to excess dampness and consequent obstruction of qi, spleen 3 is an important point for treating both primary deficiency and the subsequent excess that is often generated. It should be noted that spleen 3 is also strongly indicated for various symptoms characterized by distention and pain in the abdomen, epigastrium, chest, heart, and lateral costal region. These are due to stagnation of qi, which may arise either due to qi deficiency, in other words, when there is insufficient qi to maintain smooth circulation, or when accumulation of turbid dampness obstructs the smooth movement of qi. In the former case, the pulse and tongue will reflect deficiency only, and the treatment principle is to reinforce spleen 3, according to the theory of treating by opposition. In this case, to treat fullness by filling. In the latter case, pulse and tongue will show signs of excess, and the treatment principle is to reduce spleen 3. Spleen 3 is frequently used for disorders of the joints of the big toe and the head of the first metatarsal bone.